Up until now, most of us have been assuming our heroes are going to undo the decimation at some point during Avengers Endgame. And you know what happens when you assume? People leave angry comments about it on your YouTube video. Well, today we're gonna explore what might happen if our heroes are unable or even unwilling to undo the decimation, and what it could mean for the future of the MCU. Here at CBR, we love to talk about all the wild, exciting, and crazy things that might happen in the MCU. Sure, the Captain America without a beard and the Captain America with a beard are probably not two different people, but it can be fun to explore different options. During Avengers Infinity War, Thanos committed a true crime against humanity by killing off half of the lucrative Marvel Studios / Disney franchises. We mean he killed off half of all life in the MCU, which is of course much worse. But Redditor Enervata has a theory which states the decimation may not ever be undone. We've seen many characters in the history of the MCU die and then come back to life. Even Thor is pretty tired of that same old trope since his brother usually does it at least once per movie. So there's a strong precedent for bringing characters back from the dead, or having them secretly not have been dead this entire time. Kind of a reverse The Sixth Sense thing. Yeah, we were sad at the end of Infinity War and might have cried harder than Steve Rogers, but we didn't think the decimation would be undone because of emotional reasons. Our reasons were, well, for one, have you seen the trailer for Spider-Man Far From Home? According to Marvel Studios head Kevin Feige, the movie comes out moments after the conclusion of Endgame, and if the snap wasn't undone, Peter Parker would have bigger problems than remembering to pack his toothbrush. In addition, Marvel Studios has also confirmed sequels to both Black Panther and Doctor Strange, meaning these characters are going to have to find their way back to life at some point in Endgame. So how can we say there's a possibility the decimation might not be undone? It's a little bit complicated and a relatively new addition to the MCU, but it may have something to do with the multiverse. Comic book fans have long been familiar with the idea of there being more than one Marvel universe. The Ancient One explains this in Doctor Strange when she says this universe is only one of an infinite number. She adds that some universes are benevolent and life-giving, while others are filled with malice and hunger. But what she doesn't mention are the millions upon millions of universes that lay somewhere in the middle of those two extremes. It's probably because they don't sound too exciting, being too much like our boring old universe. Doctor Strange may have looked into over 14 million of these universes, but us moviegoers have seen a few of them ourselves. In Doctor Strange, we saw the Astral Realm, the Mirror Dimension, and the Dark Dimension, each one of them more unpleasant than the last. We also got a glimpse into a pocket dimension known as the Soul World at the end of Infinity War after taking a peek inside the Soul Stone. It's one of these many parallel universes which might hold the key to how we can see some of our favorite heroes in the MCU without reversing the decimation. Doctor Strange giving Thanos the Time Stone is one of the most talked about moments of Infinity War, and for good reason. He flat out tells Tony that he'd happily let him and Peter Parker die if it meant protecting the stone, which is pretty harsh, but then after taking a look into a few million futures, he hands it right over to Thanos to save Tony. The thing is, what if he really didn't save him? What if by handing over the Time Stone, he knew Tony would ultimately not survive what would come next? It might have seemed like he saved Tony when the exact opposite was true. It's clear that, despite what movie audiences think, Thanos doesn't really see himself as a villain. As far as he's concerned, he's not the Mad Titan. He's the Conscientious Titan. He gives this whole spiel about the importance of balance and how he's really doing everyone a favor by wiping out half of all life in the universe. We know he's just a great guy and a terrific father on top of it all. People who vanished during the decimation died. But what if they were simply transported to another universe? There could be a universe out there with all of the heroes who vanished during the decimation. It's possible those who were decimated only have vague memories of their old universe. If the decimation never happened at all, this could explain the events of the Spider-Man Far From Home trailer. It certainly doesn't seem to feature a world where half of everyone disappeared and then were brought right back. Things looked pretty grim in the Super Bowl Endgame trailer, and we just can't see things recovering that quickly. It would also explain why we don't see Tony Stark, but we do see Peter Parker. What if the universe our heroes are trying to save isn't their own, but whichever one their friends end up in? Maybe Doctor Strange was right and there's only one single universe where Thanos doesn't win, and it's not the one we're used to seeing in the MCU. Maybe the best our heroes can do is ensure their loved ones will be able to live on in their new universe. Yeah, we know that's pretty depressing, but after the ending of Infinity War, would it be that big of a surprise? Our heroes could both defeat Thanos and still be unable to undo the result of the decimation. Now, let's talk about this shiny new universe where the decimation never happened. Why would Marvel want to abandon their old universe and start over? If you think about it, Marvel could soon have an issue with overcrowding, and maybe getting rid of, let's say, half of its citizens might help. Okay, we realize we just compared Marvel Studios to Thanos, but just hear us out. We all know that with Disney acquiring Fox, there are a ton of other superheroes who can be incorporated into the MCU. Comic book fans have been waiting for a, well, Fantastic Four movie for as long as superhero movies have been a thing. And then we have the X-Men, who have an entire catalog of great movies already in existence. It's going to take a ton of careful planning in order to bring these characters successfully into the MCU, and in a world where Captain America does PSAs and Tony Stark announced he's Iron Man at a press conference, we'd need to know why these characters have been in hiding. Are we supposed to believe that nobody had any idea there's been a secret school for mutants going on for years in the MCU? It would be pretty complicated to explain away, but our heroes, or at least most of them, could end up in a universe where Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters has always been a thing. And there would be some interesting character changes if everyone left behind no longer exists in the new universe. In the comic books, both Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes have taken on the mantle of Captain America in the absence of Steve Rogers. Ever since they were kids, Steve and Bucky have been incredibly close, though not quite as close as some fans like to believe. Bucky had always been the stronger of the two until the whole super soldier serum thing, and then Steve ended up saving him on multiple occasions. Seeing him step into the role of Captain America after losing Steve would be interesting for sure. Whether it's Sam or Bucky who takes on the official role, we could definitely see these two working together and becoming a dynamic duo of their own. And let's talk about Nick Fury and Maria Hill, who we saw disappear during the post-credit scene of Infinity War. We saw Nick Fury in the trailer for Spider-Man Far From Home looking distinctly unvaporized. It's hard to say whether he counts his Avengers initiative as a win or a loss. On one hand, they've saved the world on multiple occasions. But then there's the whole Civil War business. Anyway, it seemed as though Fury had given up his hobby of collecting superheroes. But then we see him trying desperately to recruit Spider-Man. Why? If all of the Avengers were still around, it seems like Fury would have better options than a teenager. We're guessing Fury doesn't just want to know a good place to buy churros the next time he's in New York City. If the events of Civil War, Homecoming, and Infinity War happened in this universe, there's no doubt Fury would know that Spider-Man's being mentored by Tony Stark. If he wanted to set up a meeting with Peter Parker, couldn't he have talked it through with Tony instead of hunting down Peter himself on his class trip? Would Fury want to risk upsetting Tony by poaching Peter? Not only is Tony a superhero, but he's also exceptionally wealthy, powerful, and rightfully protective of Peter Parker. If Tony was still around, we just don't think Fury would be talking to Peter the way we saw in the Far From Home trailer. But we do hear Iron Man and Thor referenced in the trailer, almost in passing. If the two characters had recently and terribly perished, we doubt they would have gotten name-dropped like that. But if half of the world had been wiped out and then restored, we also don't think anyone would be talking about the heroes so casually. Could the Iron Man and Thor being mentioned be nothing more than echoes from a distant universe? The idea of the movie taking place in a different universe also gives a new meaning to the phrase Far From Home. We get that it refers to Peter Parker traveling to Europe, but it could also be a hint that the movie takes place in a different universe than Infinity War and Endgame. So what'll happen to all of the characters left behind during Endgame? We're guessing they're going to do something other than sit around and quietly accept their fate. Obviously, they're going to be doing their best to defeat Thanos and try to undo the Decimation. But if it turns out that's just not possible, they may be able to save another universe. During Infinity War, one of the major themes was the idea of sacrifice. Vision sacrificed himself for the greater good before Thanos did the time warp yet again and rendered his sacrifice worthless. Groot sacrificed his arm to create Stormbreaker, and Doctor Strange handed over the Time Stone to save Tony. Being a superhero means making those kinds of tough decisions. It's not all shiny costumes and merchandising contracts. Of the heroes left on Earth, can you think of any who wouldn't be willing to sacrifice themselves to protect those who perished in the Decimation? Would Okoye fail in her sworn duty to protect T'Challa? Would Tony and Rocket fail in their father figure duties to Peter Parker and Groot? We could go on, but we think you get the picture. It's possible the surviving heroes will continue to live on in the universe they're currently in, and it simply won't be featured in any more films. Or they could end up sacrificing themselves in order to defeat Thanos and ensure the safety of the prevailing universe. There's no doubt that the quantum realm and the multiverse are going to be major players in Endgame, and most people assume they're going to be utilized to undo the Decimation. But if this theory's correct, we might see the MCU move forward in a whole new world. What do you think of the idea that the Decimation will never be undone, and the MCU will continue in a whole new universe? Let us know if you think this is a possibility for Endgame in the comments section below. And don't forget to subscribe to CBR for more MCU videos. Thanks for watching.